Situated on Sark Island in Guernsey, an island between England and France, Sark Prison is the world's smallest prison, which only fits 2 people. In 2005, a documentary was filmed called Reversal of Fortune, where filmmakers gave a homeless man named Ted Rodrigue $100,000 in cash and followed him around to see what he would do with the money. Less than 6 months later, he was completely broke and back in the same place he was before it all started. There are still several unexplored hidden passages in the pyramids of Giza. In 2007, a man named Mike Warren Madden designed a device called the Aquatic Prom that allows you to take your fish for a walk. If you wear headphones for an hour, it will increase the amount of bacteria you have in your ear by 700 times. In the University of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada, you can take a course in the science of Batman. It uses the Caped Crusader to explain the human condition and the limitations of the human mind and body. Oreos are a type of cereal that's exclusively available in South Korea. In 1936, the Russians created a computer that ran on water. Angel Falls is a waterfall in Venezuela that is the world's highest uninterrupted waterfall at a height of 3,200 feet 979 meters. You're shorter in the evenings than you are in the mornings. It's estimated that the world's helium supply will run out within the next 20 to 30 years. Since the beginning of communication, it has been estimated that 31,000 languages have existed. Jeff Bezos' net worth is so high that it wouldn't be worth him picking up a $100 bill if he dropped it. In fact, he has to spend $28 million a day just to stop getting richer. In 1985, a New Orleans man named Jerome Moody drowned at a party attended by 100 lifeguards who were celebrating having made it through the summer without a single drowning at a city pool. Nomophobia is the fear of being without mobile phone coverage. Brad Pitt was banned from China for 20 years after his role in the film 7 Years in Tibet. There is a term known as a friend paradox, where the average person has less friends than his friend. Yu Yezhen, a 53-year-old Chinese millionaire, works as a street cleaner for $228 per month to set a good example for her children. An Australian man named Don Ritchie lives across the street from the most famous suicide spot in Australia, a cliff known as the Gap. He alone has prevented around 160 suicides in his 50 years of living there by striking up a conversation with people contemplating suicide by inviting them into his house for tea. An adopted man in Michigan named Steve Flagg searched for his birth mother for 4 years before finally discovering in 2007 that she worked at the same Lowe's store that he worked at. Amazingly, neither of them knew. While you sleep, you can't smell anything, even really bad or potent smells. There is a cryptid that's believed to exist in the Gobi Desert called the Mongolian deathworm. It can grow up to 1.5 meters long and kills its prey with electric shocks from its eyes. According to neuroscientist Glenn Jeffrey, who investigates vision at the University College London, the eye color of reindeer changes depending on the time of year. In the summer, they actually turn golden, reflecting more light through the retina, which helps them deal with the almost continuous Arctic summer daylight. In the winter, however, they turn a deep blue to help them deal with the almost continuous winter darkness. Since the first nuclear test explosion on July 16, 1945, at least 8 nations have detonated 2,054 nuclear test explosions at dozens of test sites around the world. While on his deathbed in 1778, French philosopher Voltaire was asked to renounce Satan, to which he replied, "Now is not the time to be making new enemies," which are thought to be his last words. To escape the grip of a crocodile's jaws, push your thumbs into its eyeballs, it will let you go instantly. In the United States, a pound of potato chips costs 200 times more than a pound of potatoes. Studies have shown that children laugh an average of 300 times per day and adults 17 times per day, making the average child more optimistic, curious, and creative than the adult. Until 1993, the BT Tower was an official state secret, despite being a 177-meter-tall structure in the middle of central London that was open to the public. More than 90% of the monarch butterfly population has vanished in the last 25 years. Many regions in the US, most recently being the state of Hawaii, have tried solving their homeless problem by providing one-way plane tickets out of the area. Freddie Mercury got a degree in art and graphic design and eventually used his skill to design the Queen logo, aka Queen crest. Traditional naming customs of Iceland differ in that they follow no family lineage. Men are named after their father. That is, if John has a son named Olaf, his name is Olaf Johnson. If Olaf then has a son named Magnus, his name is Magnus Olafsson. Women are similar with the suffix daughter. When it became apparent that Israel was going to win the 1978 Eurovision Song Contest, most of the Arabic countries ended their transmission of the contest. This includes Jordan, who replaced the live broadcast with a picture of daffodils and later announced that Belgium had won. In the city of Yuyu in eastern China, people were confused how a Chinese couple managed to run a busy restaurant 21 hours a day without getting tired. Locals named them Robot Couple Restaurant. Turns out the restaurant is run by two couples. Both the men and women are identical twins. Vincent van Gogh used to put candles in his hat so he could paint at night. He walked ridiculously fast, was a widow chaser, and never once signed his paintings Van Gogh. A 4-5-6-pound man starved himself for a year and 17 days, only surviving off his own body fat, yeast, multivitamins and potassium supplements. After this ordeal, he weighed just 180 pounds. Neil deGrasse Tyson considered becoming a male stripper to make money to graduate school. When he visited the club, the dancers came out with lighter fluid-soaked jockstraps and set them ablaze while dancing to great balls of fire. He chose math tutoring instead. The pilot script for Scrubs called for a John McGinley type for the part of Dr. Cox. John C. McGinley still had to audition 5 times to get that role. Andre the Giant insisted on paying every restaurant bill, and once when Arnold Schwarzenegger quietly paid the cashier before Andre could, he was physically lifted and put on top of his own car by Andre and Wilt Chamberlain. Andre Geim won the satirical Ig Nobel Prize in 2000 for his work on using magnetism to levitate a frog. About 10 years later, his experiments regarding graphene won him the 2010 Nobel Prize in Physics. This makes him the only ever recipient of both the Ig Nobel and Nobel Prizes. Future King Henry V was struck in the face by an arrow in his first battle leading soldiers. Rather than leaving the field, he reportedly stated that he would rather die than stain his soldierly reputation by flight. He was 16 at that time. A city in Texas renamed itself to Dish, Texas in order to receive free Dish satellite service for 10 years. A surrogate mother gestated an anonymous donor embryo for a married couple. During the pregnancy, this couple divorced and were found not to be the child's legal parents. Despite that, 6 people were involved in her production. The child was deemed by the court to be parentless. In 2013, during his trial for bestiality, Paul Lovell was asked why he decided to have sex with a sheep. He said he turned his attention to the sheep after a cow rejected his advances for fellatio. The jury erupted in laughter. Nearly every military operation the U.S. has been involved in since World War II has been a joint operation with Canada. In many cases, Canada refused to officially support the conflicts such as the war in Iraq, but continued to supply intelligence equipment and personnel. Approximately 2 million people in the U.S. are impaired by the effects of cerebrovascular disease, including strokes. Cerebrospinal fluid is 99% water. The knee-jerk reflex takes about 30 milliseconds. Dr. James Parkinson first described a neurological disorder called the shaking palsy, later to be called Parkinson's disease, in 1817. The aroma of coffee contains over 800 different chemicals, but only 20-30 of them contribute to the characteristic quality. The tokay gecko uses its tongue to clean its eyes. Humans can feel a dot that is only 0.006 mm high and 0.04 mm across when it is moved across a fingertip. A standard Braille dot is 167 times higher. The number of neurons in the neocortex of females is 19.3 billion. In males, the number of neurons in the neocortex is 22.8 billion. The channel catfish has a chemical sensing system that can detect the equivalent of less than 1/100th of a teaspoon 1 to 100 micrograms per liter of alanine and amino acid in an Olympic-sized swimming pool.